Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Tay and I'm kind of new around here. Today I wanted to go through some of my predictions and ramblings for K-pop in 2021, even though we're already a few weeks into the year. This won't be an exhaustive list of everything I think will happen in the industry this year, but this is more of a breakdown of what I think is going to happen artist by artist. If I get any of these right, run me my money, and if I get any wrong, this video never happened. It seems fitting to start in the place where K-pop gets all of its instructions from, SM Entertainment, my ultimate group, EXO. I do not understand the XOL logic of how EXO should be having comebacks Super Junior style with all the available members participating. In 2020, the Lay situation was still ongoing for the fourth or fifth year in a row. Three members were enlisted, and Chen was busy raising a damn baby during a pandemic. That left Chanyeol, Sehun, Kai, and Baekhyun to promote. Super Junior promoting with two-thirds of their group at a time, and EXO promoting with barely half, are not the same scenario. On top of that, half of EXO's would-be available members also have other obligations with the crossover group in Super M. What I'm getting at is I actually understand why EXO can't have group comebacks for a while. Even if the enlisted members come back at the end of this year, Chanyeol and Baekhyun are going to be enlisted and will still have the same issue. With that all being said, I don't expect to see a full EXO comeback anytime soon. Could they release a single or a special album towards the end of the year? Maybe a winter album or a Japanese comeback, which typically aren't promoted anyway? Sure. But am I holding my breath for EXO content? No. As far as members and subunits go, I think Kai and Baekhyun will each have a comeback with Kai releasing another mini album and Baekhyun releasing a full-length album. I think Baekhyun is also going to have a solo online concert before he, you know. I don't think this will happen, but I would love if CBX could do a small reunion, perhaps a special single release, even if they don't promote it in the brief time between Schumann's return and Baekhyun's, you know. And now on to my favorite cursed girl group, Red Velvet. With Wendy back and well enough to perform, of course they're going to have a comeback as soon as possible, probably with a full-length album, and I think this is going to be in a Red concept. They haven't released a full-length Red album since 2015, and I think one last full Red album that's completely off the wall and the way that only Red Velvet can pull off is the perfect way for the girls to go out. I don't think they're going to full-on disband a la FX, nor do I think they're magically going to stay together as a five-member group. As their contracts run up this year, I don't see all five members re-signing, though it's pretty much guaranteed that Wendy and Seulgi will stay with the company. The other three are a bit of a gray area. Joy and Yeti are tragically underutilized, as evidenced by the fact that we barely saw either of them last year, or any year. I don't see what SM is offering them that they can't get elsewhere. Even ignoring the scandal from last fall, I don't think Irene wants to stay an idol for much longer, or if she does, she wants to put it on the back burner and focus more on other parts of the entertainment industry. Basically, I don't think all the members are going to stay in the group, but of Irene, Joy, and Yeri, I see two of them leaving, but it's a coin toss of which members it's going to be. Also, Wendy's solo debut. NCT. Ah, yes, time to predict the careers of 23 men. Starting with 127, they had a hell of a 2020, and I think that SM wants to capitalize on how successful Kick It and Punch were. I think they're going to shift their focus back to America with an era that's like regular 2.0, because if COVID is under enough control by the end of the year, they'll want to tour in America as soon as possible in early 2022. I think they'll release two mini albums this year, but one of them's going to be a brighter concept like Touch or Superhuman. For Wavy, I really see them leaning into the early 2000s vibe they've had since debut, like the trendsetters they are. They'll only have one comeback this year, but it'll probably be another full-length album. I can also see their vocal line doing an official release with an MV and maybe a few music show performances. Next is the rumored new unit in NCT Japan. I can't predict the members besides Yuta and Shotaro, but I wouldn't put it past SM to shove a couple of the non-127 Dreamies into the unit just so they can be in a permanent, non-rotating unit without disrupting the formations of the existing units. But I can also see another rearrangement as we had with the Win-Win situation and him switching from 127 to Wavy and being replaced by Jungkook. Why did I say Jungkook's name like that? Ew. Anyway, I think if this happens, Yuta is going to be phased from 127 to the Japan unit, while either Geno or Jamin takes his spot, though I'm leaning more towards Geno. And finally, we get to NCT's newest confusing mess, NCT Dream. I already said how I think the members will be split into 127 and the Japan unit, but as far as the OT7 we're expecting, I want a full-length album as OT7, though I know that's highly unlikely. And since the members will be busy with various other projects, we'll likely only get one mini album yet again, unless SM adds new members to NCT Dream and makes the full album function kind of like an NCT U album, where it's just full of unit songs. I feel like NCT as a whole is just a hard group to make predictions for since the entire group and concept are chaos personified. Next up is aespa. Girl, however you say that. We don't know that much about aespa at this point. They only have one song and a weird concept, and that's pretty much it. So predicting for them is a little more difficult, but since I think SM is scaling back a little on NCT's grander projects and Red Velvet in general this year, they'll have more money and resources to put towards actually promoting their new girl group after only sending them on music shows to perform their one song in 2020. I think they'll have two mini albums, one in the spring and then one during the comeback hell that is October. As far as the adding members conspiracy theory, I could see it happening, but I think it's more likely that SM focuses on leaning into their AI concept since it wasn't used that much for their debut era, and most of, if not all of 2021 is going to be virtual K-pop like 2020 was, and SM would be stupid to not capitalize on that first versus adding new members to the group. SNSD, solo comebacks for everyone. Where is OGG? I don't know. This isn't much of a prediction, more of a wish, but I would love to see OT8 release a special song together. Maybe it has an MV, maybe it doesn't, but I want them to test the waters with how a music release would go with different agencies and companies and labels involved, and if they can make it work on this smaller scale of a special non-profit, one step above a SoundCloud release song, then they can make some moves to get us a legitimate OT8 comeback somehow. Will this happen? No. Am I going to be a sucker and want it anyway? Yes. Shiny. Of course we know Shiny's having a comeback. They've already confirmed it. I think it'll be another split album like their most recent comeback was. Now, that was an understandably very emotional and serious comeback given the circumstances of the time. But it's been a few years, and though they'll obviously always carry Jonghyun with them in spirit, they know good and damn well he wants them to bust it down while their old asses still can. I'm talking Sherlock. I'm talking Lucifer. I'm talking 5, 6, 7, 8 choreo on point on some Dance Dance Revolution shit. They say the third generation was about vocals and fourth generation is about dancing, but I'm gonna need Shiny to step in and remind these K-pop toddlers who the kings of both aspects are. As far as solo work goes, I can see each member having a solo comeback or an album debut in Minho's case, but I still think the focus will be on group activity so they can squeeze as much out of the Shiny brand as they can before Taemin. You know. Next is Super M. You've moved on to other music. I'm still jopping. We are not the same. Super M said their goal was to find success in America, and they didn't let a global pandemic stop them. They really hit #1 on the Billboard chart thanks to bundling their album with concert tickets. And when they couldn't do that for the next album, thanks to not being able to tour, they said, bet. And still hit #2 on the chart without tour bundles. So if there's one thing Super M is going to do, it's defy our expectations. That's why when I see people say Super M won't have a comeback this year because their main vocalist isn't listing, or because they can't go to America, which is the whole reason for their existence in the first place, or because they're just a quick gimmick, a capitalistic fad with no staying power, I have to laugh. Hell yeah, the Supers are having a comeback this year, hopefully with another full-length album. Whether or not Baekhyun is involved depends on the timing, but I see Super M taking the same approach to 2021 as I think NCT 127 will, thinking 3 steps ahead to post-COVID American money. I do think the title track will be different than their past title tracks, not leaning so heavily into SMP like Dropping and 100. I think they're going to do something more laid back and playful and R&B inspired. What I'm saying is Dangerous Woman should have been a title track, and if they want to release it as one for the new album and act like it wasn't on the Super One album, I wouldn't object. back to it. Now that we've made our way through SM Town, let's take a quick detour into the worst place on earth, YG Entertainment. First up is Blackpink. We know Rose will have her solo this year, and possibly Lisa, but I also see Jennie either getting a solo comeback or featuring on another artist's song, and also getting into another scandal that the internet blows way out of proportion yet again. As far as a group comeback goes, of course, they'll release a mini album at some point, but I think after how successful their pre-release singles were for 2020, to the point where How You Like That and Ice Cream completely overshadowed Lovesick Girls, it's likely that they'll follow the same formula for this comeback. If Rose's solo comes out, late winter, February, maybe early March, then the first Blackpink single should be released around May, and then maybe another pre-release in late June, and then a 5 or 6 song mini album in September. And if YG is smart, putting Lisa's solo at the end of the year. Since the album era was so successful thanks to YG handing a big part of the reins over to Interscope, I think YG will swallow their pride and realize their biggest source of money is Blackpink. And if letting Interscope direct their promotions is what's going to keep YG afloat as a business, then so be it. YG Entertainment are dumb, but they're not stupid. Big Bang. GD has already confirmed his comeback, and I think we'll finally get the group comeback we were supposed to get last year before COVID ruined everything. This next part is just wishful thinking, but every part of me hopes they pull a Stray Kids and re-record the parts of their old songs as if they release new songs, but re-record parts of their discography that have their former member in it. YG is too cheap to let them release such a project, but it would be nice to be able to listen to a Big Bang song without having to skip the bridge every single time. iKON. They're disbanding soon, and I'll forever be angry about what happened to this group. Now that that depressing detour is over, let's go somewhere fun. The JYP Nation. Stray Kids. They're winning Kingdom, everyone else go home. But other than this indisputable fact, the fun thing about Stray Kids is that they tell us their plans at the beginning of the year. We already know they're releasing their second full-length album as well as taking on various other projects. Given the fantastic 2020 they had, I fully expect them to continue on with their mala genre style and putting more emphasis on these over-the-top, borderline theatrical performances both on Kingdom and for comeback promotions. Like many other groups this year, they'll continue releasing English songs, and I wouldn't put it past them to release an English version of Backdoor or God's Menu. I also think that this year they'll start bringing other members into producing more of the songs. Although all the members have helped write and produce in the past, I think a few of them will be taking on that role more often this year, especially if more unit songs are released along with this full album and its repackage. Speaking of the repackage, as the past few Stray Kids releases have been very high energy, I expect them to release something more emotional like I Am You or Levanter later in the year as the lead track for the repackage. Also, they're winning Kingdom in case that wasn't clear before. Twice. Since Twice have pretty much conquered Asia, JYP seems to be shifting their focus to America because where else is there to go? But I don't foresee their US efforts being as successful as some past groups for a few reasons that I don't feel like getting into. However, I do think they'll get a decent amount of exposure here. They'll release an original English song that does all right on the charts, but after this year, I think JYP is going to pull back on the American activities. As far as their comebacks go, it's pretty reasonable to assume they'll keep pushing their new, mature image and have a comeback that has a subtle, sexy concept, but not so far that Twice aren't able to keep up their cute girls next door image. I think a good comparison for this would be I Like That by Sistar, RIP My Summer Queens. ITZY. Speaking of JYP groups and America, let's be real. ITZY are literally the Spice Girls with some Generation Z pizzazz thrown on top. JYP recreating literally the only foreign girl group to hit it big in America and doing the bare minimum to push their appeal to the American market would be the second biggest failure of that company. And if the right cards fall into place, I could see them becoming the next big breakout after Blackpink and possibly surpassing them because they'll have the advantage of consistent releases. With the girls heading into their third year of activity, I think they'll have at least 3 comebacks this year, with one of them being a full-length album and an English version of each comeback. And fingers crossed, JYP starts letting them have some creative input into their songs or concepts, because I'm not gonna lie, some of their lyrics could use a little bit of assistance. Day 6. Well, this is a whole yikes. I love Day 6. I do. And of all the predictions I've made in this video, this is the one I want to be wrong about the most. Yes, that includes not getting an EXO comeback or my ultimate girl group losing 1 or 2 members. I think a member is going to leave Day 6. Now their contract's up next year, so the member could just wait the contract out. But with enlistment right around the corner and group promotions having to take a halt and each member starting to branch off and do their own thing, I don't see Day 6 having a busy year. And a member leaving due to a lack of work is not unlikely. It's possible that we get a full group comeback around late spring, early summer, and I think Youngtae might release a solo mini album this year, but other than that, I don't see a lot of musical activity for Day 6 as a group. Alright, now it's time for random groups that fall under several different labels, so buckle up, ladies and gents. 17. I don't think there are likely to be any major shakeups with 17 this year. For the most part, I think it'll be a repeat of 2020. They'll probably release another full-length album, and I see them returning to a darker concept, but throwing a little retro energy into it. I personally love something R&B inspired, like maybe something Rain would have released back in his heyday. And I wouldn't be surprised if 2021 is the year when they finally start doing entire mini albums as their official subunits. Maybe with the vocal unit having an album in the spring, the performance unit in the summer, and the hip hop unit in the fall, then followed by a full group comeback in the winter. Will this happen? Probably not. Am I including it anyway? Yeah. BTS. Actually, nothing that big. Well, they get their Grammy, but other than that, nothing too major. I think they'll have a single release and then a mini album as enlistment starts, and then the younger members will start gearing up for their solo debuts. I also think they may have an official subunit debut later in the year. I'm not sure why, but the 2 members I'm sure would be there are Taehyung and Hobi, but there could be a 3rd member added too. TXT. They'll have an English single release that does fairly well as a full-length album, and I see the title track as something dark but not edgy, something borderline sensual a la VIX's more elegant concepts like Shangri-La or Sentis. Girl, whatever the hell that song was called, I do not remember. I'm not gonna lie, whenever the Udo VIX album comes on, I kind of just skip it until I get the trigger, and then I listen to that for 30 minutes in a row. I miss VIX. Monsta X. Making predictions for groups in their 6th or 7th year is getting uncomfortable because it's rare that groups don't start to lose members or full on disband around this time, and it's something that it sucks to talk about or even speculate on. I don't think any more members are leaving this year, and I do see them having 2 mini album comebacks this year, but it'll feel bittersweet because fans know what's coming up next year. But on a brighter note, I think Kihyun is finally going to get his solo album and it'll do moderately well. I see/want something kind of Taemin-esque in its theme and concept, maybe even leaning into some religious symbolism. All I know is my man is too talented for Starship to give him some boring ass ballad album. My man needs to sing the boys. Literally, whoever came up with this name, I got beef with them. Fuck. Okay. They're winning Kingdom, everyone else go home. They're gonna grow even more in popularity after Kingdom finally airs, if it ever does. And each performance is gonna go viral yet again. I want them to throw some more swords. As far as comebacks go, again, we're leaning more into Wish territory here, but since they have so many connections to SM Entertainment, could we maybe, I don't know, get a summer comeback produced by LDN Noise? ATEEZ. They're winning Kingdom, everyone else go home. ATEEZ are going to have a hell of a year, especially if my conspiracy theory is correct about Big Hit possibly acquiring KQ. I think they're going to have 1 mini album and a full album this year. With the way the 4th generation is looking right now, it seems the biggest boy groups at the end of it are going to be Stray Kids, TXT, NCT, and ATEEZ if they continue to play their cards right. And I'm going to leave it at that and not curse them by prematurely mentioning something I see ahead for them in 2022. All I'm saying is, as much as I hate Big Hit with a passion, It may be beneficial to the longevity of a tease if Big Hit takes them in before things have a chance to go sideways with KQ. Sips conspiracy tea. Card. Yeah, while many groups have managed to get through COVID in creative and lucrative ways, Card is one of the ones that hasn't been so lucky. Their comebacks haven't done well, their company's struggling financially, and I see this going one of two ways. Either they put all their remaining resources into giving Card a final push with a comeback this spring and hope this last-ditch effort saves them, akin to Pledis in 2015, betting their bottom dollar on 17 and seeing that turn into millions of dollars. Or they put that money into BM's solo debut and capitalize on him being the most internationally recognizable and most likely to be successful member. I think if they get him the right collaborations and promotion and attention, it could maybe boost the group and keep them from having to disband. But I think that the former is more likely to happen, and they'll just give Card a final comeback that maybe doesn't go the way we want it to go, and then the members go their own ways and embark on solo careers elsewhere. Also, I think I saw something recently about how the company is planning on debuting a new boy group soon. So, you know how that should go. After school. This is the year. It's going to happen. They took an 8-year hiatus just to build the anticipation. Okay, just y'all watch. When they come back fire dancing on stilts or some shit, then y'all will realize. Idol. I think they'll release a full-length album this year, as well as one or two digital singles. With Minnie and Yuki joining Soyeon in the production seat more recently, they can pump out songs faster. And since they'll be Cube's only active girl group, don't worry, we'll get to that in a minute. There's no reason to believe they won't be constantly releasing content this year. Luna, God, where do I start? With Hustle's return, a full album is pretty much guaranteed, and maybe in that we'll finally get the return of their subunits since there's room on the album to split the group back up. As far as the concept for the title track goes, it's a bit hard to predict since Luna keeps changing up their style. So what has been their most successful comeback to date? And given the way that Dum Dee Dum Dee 2.0 underperformed, I can see them going back to the aggressive but fun era of So What. But Luna is another cursed group, so I see something major happening with them later in the year. Perhaps a lawsuit or some other major scandal that's gonna end up setting them back a few steps again. Everglow. I think Everglow is going to release their first full album this year and actually change up their concept to something brighter and more chill than these combat boots, bass drop, hair flipping title tracks they've been giving us since debut. I think they'll also release a song in English, but it'll be more in line with their girl crush side. Mamamoo. A lot of people seem to think Mamamoo is going to disband, but I put them in the same lane as Red Velvet. They may lose a member, but they'll just keep promoting with the remaining members. I see solo comebacks for all the members and possibly a subunit album. And for the full group comeback, I think it'll just be another mini album, but with a softer title track this time, something more like Starry Night. CLC. I'm not angry. I'm not angry. I'm not angry. I am livid. CLC is going to disband. That much is clear. I mean, they can continue on without Elkie, though I'm a huge CLC fan. Even I can admit that she wasn't a make or break member to the group musically. It's not like she was Sunghee or Yeon to the point where her presence would be noticeably missing. If this were any other group, everything would still be fine. A 7-member group can lose a member and keep on going as if nothing happened. But as we see, Cube has essentially given up on CLC, and I could see this going a few ways. Either they have a comeback this year, their final comeback before disbandment, or they don't release anything ever again and Cube quietly lets them go. If they do have a comeback, it'll be a mini or full album, but we won't be able to fully enjoy it either way because we know they're going to disband. The fact that I will never see Show performed live is a war crime. Dreamcatcher. They're going to have 2 mini album comebacks and get their first win, as long as another company doesn't pay for their group to be awarded Dreamcatcher's earned trophy again. That's all for today. And now for a few soloists. Chungha. She's finally releasing that damn album. She released a few songs earlier in 2020 to lead up to her album, and then she just vanished like Houdini. But she's already released the track list for the album, so we'll see the full comeback soon. Maybe even before this video goes up. I don't have much to predict about her in terms of comebacks, but since she's now affiliated with 88 Rising, and she has the rare K-pop soloist combination of being a great dancer, performer, vocalist, and fluent English speaker, I could see her easily appealing to the Ariana Grande demographic in America, especially given that they both give off the early 2000s pop princess image. If her management doesn't fumble too hard, this could be a breakout year for her in the States, and we could even get an American tour in 2022. In the meantime, an online concert is pretty much guaranteed. And hear me out, I think a few of the IOI members could join in as special guests. Imagine the iconography. Sunmi. I know Sunmi has released a few good songs in the past couple years, but none have matched the success or, let's be real, quality of Gashina, regardless of how overplayed that song became. No, I will not be elaborating. I want this year to be the year that she releases another massive hit that literally every K-pop fan knows, regardless if they stand her or not. If that means she's got to get back to the studio with Teddy, then so be it. I do think it's more likely that she releases some collaborations this year after seeing how decently received her song with J.I.B. was. That being said, let's put our conspiracy theory caps on. Word on the Sesame Street is Bam Bam is going to sign with Make Us Entertainment, Sunmi's record label, which means that we will likely get collaborations between the two. Bam Bam hasn't done much in the way of solo music, so dipping his toes in the water by collaborating with a famous soloist, one who started out in the same company he did, would create a lot of buzz, and once he starts releasing full solo albums, it won't feel like an all or nothing scenario. Listen, it makes sense, y'all. And finally, Jessie. Dawn finally tells her what's going on. And that's it. That's my basic list of K-pop predictions and wishes and conspiracies. To be honest, I don't know what this video actually is. Anyway, my name is Tay. Like, comment, and subscribe if you don't want to see me flop, and this video is over.